No idea. No idea. No.
Excuse me, do you know what's going on here?
No, I don't know, sorry.
Excuse me, do you know what's happening here?
We're demolishing it.
Do you know why? Excuse me, do you know what they're doing here?
No, sorry.
Do you know why they're demolishing the car park?
No, that's what we would like to know.
Now, a little bit late, but I think because of the traffic situation, the tube strike, it's only fair, there might still be a few people coming to join us. One of them is Ben Thompson, who's a reporter for the local Guardian. He told me he was going to come along this evening because he wants to hear what we have to say about the tower and the unfinished bridge and all those other issues. We'd have to have a vote on this. Shall we allow those who think the filming should go ahead, put your hand up. That's everybody down there, so. And you both have reservations.
Yeah.
Oh, you have
this lady here as well.
I don't want to be filmed, but I think it's a good thing because we all watch.
Yeah, I'm not against the film.
We all watch
Okay. So it's the three of you down this end.
Well, if you're filmed from there, do you want to swap places then?
And my name is Gam, and I'm one of your newly elected councillor. And I live in Mura.
My name is Gopal. I live in Colliers Wood Street for the last 40 years. My name is Nick Draper. I've been living in Boundary Road for the last 28 years, and I'm one of the local councillors.
I live in Robinson Road and I've been there 25 years, and I'm also a London local borough merchant employee as well for the Waste Services section.
Have you come here?
I've come as a resident.
Yeah. I did invite Aziz to this meeting. He's the owner of Golf Ray 2 Tower. Surprise, surprise. He hasn't come. He did send me an email. I don't know if he really meant it to come to me. Because it was about the confusion about what's going on. But and then I got in touch. I invited the planning officers as well. But they've gone to the community forum this evening, which they're required to do as council officers. So they sent me a report. I'll just read this little bit and then we can have a discussion. The planning officers met with the owners of the tower and their architects in August to discuss potential alterations to the approved scheme. They're seeking to amend the mix of units on the site, but at the same time remain within the general parameters of the approved scheme. That's the one they got planning permission from. If this can be achieved, then this may avoid a new submission and the need to go through the entire planning submission process again. The draft proposals have still to be formally submitted. And then it continues, with regard to the rear car park, works of demolition were halted to the discovery of the electricity substation. We're trying to find out how long these works will be delayed, and whether EDF, that's the energy company who own it, have removal of the substation programmed.
According to Mr. Aziz, work will start again as soon as the substation is moved. The demolition will be completed, and then, and only then, will they start on the business of recladding the tower. Now, you know the tower has got that green netting up both sides. It's there to stop stray bits of cladding falling off onto your head as you walk past it. And how effective it would be, but you know, it's obviously something that can't survive for long. So we put this thing called a Section 215 on the council, and it took me over a year to persuade them to do that. When they eventually did, it sort of came to fruition in May, early May, and they've had since early May to start work on that cladding. Unfortunately, the council gave them 7 months to complete the work, which means until the 7th of December. And I have confirmed with the council that if they started work before the 7th of December, they wouldn't prosecute. In other words, we're giving them even more time.
The council approved the construction of a second tower and 240 living units and some commercial units. And they've had that planning permission for, I think it is 4 years, and done nothing with it. What they're now wanting to do, according to their own website, is increase that to 500 residential units. So that's an increase of something like 250%, a really significant increase. The council officers that we have spoken to said they would, and I think the councillors as well, would not approve of that, because it is a huge increase. But they obviously want to maximise the amount of money that they can get from that side.
Excuse me, do you know what's happening here?
I think it's a reconstruction, I think.
So do you think the builders or the council should inform the people of what's happening
Oh,
here?
definitely, definitely. Everything's about community, isn't it?
No, I don't. I've heard a lot of rumours, and I was here before that was even built. 1960, Anne and I came here, and there seems to have been a bit of a torrent of lies about the place, almost from its inception.
I don't know who owned it, but years ago it just got built, and I think it was an oil company, something like Brown and Root. They seemed to rent the whole lot as offices, and I should imagine hundreds of people worked in there. And then the story I heard was the rates went up and up and up, and Brown and Root pulled out. When they pulled out, the place to me just seemed to be empty. I've never seen people coming in and out. And then it just looked like it just fell into a state of disrepair. Now it looks a terrible building.
It was built in 1966. Most of local residents were unaware that planning permission had even been given for it, but it was built for a firm called Ronald Lyon Properties, and the builder was a company called Mightons. It took about 11 months to build. It was built with a concrete frame, and factory-built units were strapped to the outside, which gives it its very ugly look now. It was empty for about 4 years, and then the developer had to move into it himself because it was deteriorating. He occupied it for about 2 years, and then a big American company, Brown and Root, took the lease over, refurbished the whole building at great expense, and it was their European headquarters for about 11 years, employing about 300 or 400 people. They moved out. Their offices over the road, which is where the hotel is now, were also vacated, and they were taken over by Holiday Inn. After the American company went, the tower became derelict.
House.
A big house?
Or a castle.
A castle?
Castle.
Why a castle? There's no dragons anymore, you know. No dragons and knights. What about the fact that it's empty? Do you think?
A beach.
Do you think it should? A beach.
A beach.
Do you think the big black building should stay empty?
No.
Or do you think it should be knocked down?
Knocked down.
Knocked down, and then what would go there instead? A playground? Be a big. You can imagine a big flat space where there's no building left. What could it be? A swimming pool?
Yeah. Yeah.
A wave machine. I think it should stay because then you know, like, where you are.
It's a good point, Robin. It's a landmark, isn't it? I mean, you can see it from miles around, and if you've got something tall like that, you can see it and say, that's Colliers Wood, that is. I don't think the infrastructure of Colliers Wood can take any more people. What's happened over the last 10 years is this whole gentrification of the area. More and more people have moved in, the house prices have gone up, but the amenities haven't really changed. The tower, which has been here, I don't know, 20, 25 years or more, I don't know, is a landmark without a doubt. And the guy that owns that and owns a lot of properties around here has the monopoly, and it's about time he gave some of that up because we are being squeezed by him all the time.
Who wants a big block of flats in the middle of the road? It will impact on everybody. The building will take forever. We have put up with enough muck for years, and all of a sudden, just before the election, Brown and Roots was noticed, the building was noticed. I live so close to it, I can literally see it, and all I would like is if he could just clear that rubble, because during the summer, as you're aware, it's a wind tunnel. Yes. But I've got skylights and they are thick, thick, thick. Inside my house is thick with dust. If you could just damp that down or shift it for a start. Just for a start, just so as we can all breathe a little bit easier and live a bit cleaner lives. And 250, 500 flats. That's too many.
I get the tube to work and I get on at Colliers Wood, and generally I get a seat. But by the time we get to Clapham, those people are lucky to even get on the tube.
I just hope cleverer people have thought about all these people and transport. Well, that Northern Line, you know, I believe it's the oldest underground that we got, and we already cram coming home of an evening, like, you know, well, you hear people talk about worse than cattle on a truck, and believe you me, it is. You know, you're jammed in there every night. So if you're going to have thousands more people, I don't know how. And by then, the people that own it all, they don't live round here, they probably live somewhere nice.
It's called Living in the Shadow of the Tower. In ancient times, great monuments were built on ley lines, but the Brown and Root building was built on the Northern Line, and hence it cannot be imploded without the tube literally going down the tube. And so the most hated building in southwest London, as voted by the viewers of Channel 4's programme Demolition, will not be demolished because it's privately owned. And the new owner plans to build another tower to provide a sense of symmetry and proportion. And they shall become known as the Twin Towers of Colliers Wood, monuments to monumental greed. However, one day they will crumble and fall because nothing lasts forever, not even concrete and steel. One day they will collapse and die of natural causes. And we will not mourn their demise, for we shall rise out of their shadows.
Mr. Aziz is a Muslim businessman of some repute. He is one of the top 10 Muslim businessmen in this country. This tower ain't going to go away. It would cost more to take down than it actually is worth as a building. That's a real problem in itself.
Yeah. This is exactly what, you know, we took a vote on it. Right. You know, we were going to have a demonstration, we were going to get in touch with the media. Right. What has happened?
We were going to have a march to his
house.
Okay,
so,
let's do it.
You know, what happened to that?
There's now, every time you walk along there on a windy day, there's gusts of winds come through there. Now, whether it is that building that traps and makes the airflow around there, but several people, they've been blown over. And I never even knew there'd been any plans to turn it into flats and all things like that. And go back years ago, when that tower was first sort of planned, there was boards, there was drawings, all different places, you know, so we did have some idea what was going on. When I walk around the roads, people that want to alter their house, you know, I don't know who's responsible for putting the little notes up, but they put little notes on and it says, you know, planning application has been applied, you know, I want to put a loft on or build an extension. And then if people have got any objections, they have to go and say, what, you know, the people next door and all that, the people. But I haven't seen nothing about it. Look, I mean, heard nothing about it down the bottom.
My name's Keith Spears. I live in Cavendish Road. Moved in about 12 or 13 years ago. And for the last 4 years, I've been the chair of the Colliers Wood Residents Association. What I was saying, and what I still believe, is that even with 240 residential units, which could be 500 people, 750 people, maybe 1,000, that the infrastructure in Colliers Wood couldn't cope with that influx of people. Because at the moment, the roads around here are gridlocked for most of the time. The tube is packed every morning during rush hour, going to work, coming back. There aren't as many school places as there were locally, because in their wisdom, some years ago, Merton Council sold off half of Single Gate School. So there aren't the school places, the GP surgeries are full and they're looking for larger premises. So I don't think the infrastructure in this area could cope with that sort of increase. And as you say now, according to their website, they're wanting to increase the number of residential units to 500. So that could mean 1,000 people moving in. There isn't the space for 1,000 people, and I'm not sure what quality of life they could have anyway on what really is a traffic island. It's got traffic all the way around it. And I think at the moment there's a game going on between the owners and the council and to try and push the limits. And I suspect that's maybe why they've done this. They must have known there was an electricity substation in there. They were the owners of the building. They gave permission for the car park to be demolished. And then they slice it in half, and then behold, they discover an electricity substation in there. Well, surely they must have known it was all there all the time. They're the owners of the building. They must have the plans for the building. And I just think it's a game that's being played. They're pushing the council to the limit and almost to suggest you think it was bad before, look at it now, it's even worse. And it is. It looks like something out of Beirut or Baghdad.
I called on a gentleman in my ward on Saturday who was in a 2-bedroom flat in Mitcham with 6 children. 6 children. Now, he's British, he lives here, his children, and we've got to be, I'm sorry, but we've got to be more flexible about housing. I don't want to see housing on open spaces, but I think there is a case for intense building. So sustainability is not just spreading the costs, but it's making a sustainable community. Now, I hear what you say about controlling the numbers in the London Borough of Merton, It is a popular place. We have got the Northern Line. I dearly hope the gentleman who said that the Black Tower is going to be knocked down and flats will go up. I would like that, and I think the whole of Colliers would. But you're right in saying it will bring extra people, as indeed the development at Abbey Mills has. Now, as a local authority, we have limited planning powers, as you will understand, and people can go to appeal to the Mayor of London, whose policy is to build around transport terminals. So Wimbledon Station, Colliers Wood Station, South Wimbledon Station are zones, I think you'll find, which are scheduled to take.
Speak to him more firmly.
He doesn't take a lot of notice of it.
Okay.
I've got a question, just to come back to your point, sir. I'm a local resident, I'm also part of the Conservative. I can tell you that the reason why this area has brought so many people to the borough is because of Siobhan. Siobhan had the reason why is because Siobhan. She brought in loads of people to the area. Housing is good, but she created so much housing. How do we know that this is not going to carry on, it's not going to continue?
Well, I thought you were going to say she attracted people because she was a good MP. But then when you said you're a Conservative, I was looking at another issue. But I mean, the plain fact of the matter is there is a desperate need for social housing.
So I think expanding the school is a great idea. And obviously I know we don't want to, if possible, we don't want to lose the green space, which is very, very important for the area. But education is most important than green space, I believe. We can take dog, if necessary, in other like the other parks.
Very controversial. If you think back, the school has gone from strength to strength. That many years ago it was on special measures, faced with closure, and the current head teacher has turned it around without a doubt. Now, that it's a local community school, and it can cope with the community. I mean, it's oversubscribed, which is a great thing. Schools in general in London are in a real state. They really are. They're not getting any money from local government. And a lot of schools being forced into a situation where they have to look elsewhere for funding. So any councillor that says education comes first is lying, in my opinion, because they are cutting so much off. They're taking such a big slice off of the school grants for themselves to go back into central government that the schools can't actually cope. And let's not forget that the government actually decided to close down an awful lot of schools quite a few years ago to make affordable housing for people. That never happened either, because the affordable housing became exclusive housing in nice old Victorian buildings, which people couldn't really afford in the first place. So they're backtracking on what was done a few years ago, in my opinion. The school, I agree, needs to be probably improved in some ways. The school currently uses the park anyway for sports day and things like that. It's a great location. And the fact they're expanding is good for the area, but that means basically its catchment gets bigger. It doesn't mean we need more houses to fill that school up. There's already enough children to fill the school up, even if when it becomes bigger. So I don't agree with them at all.
Merton has 18% open space within its borders. If we don't fight these things carefully, plan them carefully, that 18% will dwindle every year. So the bit of park that we're talking about building on has to be defended, if at all possible. And if it is possible to build on this school, we should opt for that and not allow that little patch to be lost. There's another issue, and you mentioned it, you call it sustainability. You're really talking about cost effectiveness. You're not talking about sustainability. It is not sustainable for us to keep absorbing thousands of people into this borough simply because it's a lovely place to live. Because we will at some point end up with a Manhattan skyline if we're going to defend our 18% green space. So at some point, you guys have got to say no to more planning permission
for flats and conversions of tower blocks and stuff in this area. Otherwise, this area will just become an overcrowded ghetto, and all the work that Natalie and her team put in will be for nothing, because people won't want to bring their children here.
That feel better? Short enough. Thanks a lot. The cinema would be nice. I like that idea.
You know, some people said they're going to build it into a big hotel.
That'd be nice.
Do you think a hotel will bring less people in the area than 500 flats, or 200 or 300 flats?
A hotel will not, won't bring as many people to the area. People are permanent residents. There's going to be a lot of people. I heard they were going to build 285 flats and build another tower next to the existing one.
Really?
Yeah. That's what I heard.
Are they going to make it look nicer though?
I heard it would be glass clad and look pretty sharp. I mean, I personally would prefer if it was residential building. I'd like to buy a flat there. Have you ever been up the top and looked? It's an amazing view. See straight into London. It's fantastic. And there's 16 stories there, and I heard they were going to put another 8 stories on top and build a 10-story next to it. Take care, guys. Have a lovely weekend. And it'd be nice. A restaurant up the top. Nobody knows anything. I've spoke to councillors. I've spoke to everybody, and I don't know anything, to be honest with you. Just nice to see something done. Art centre would be good. I think they'll have to put the library, because they closed the library down. So I believe they'll have to build a library there.
Excuse me, do you know what they're doing here?
Yeah, they are. I have seen, every day I have seen this. I think it is better. It looked bad.
Looks very bad.
Yes.
Do you think they should put a sign up?
Yes.
Telling people what's
Yes,
happening?
yes. They should tell.
I've
got a clue.
Do you think
knocking it all down.
Council put up a sign telling people what's going on?
They should do, shouldn't they, really? Yeah. I should imagine all this will be going, and they'll have some sort of a roundabout, because look at the congestion up there.
The idea of a hotel. Maybe that's a good idea, because at least you wouldn't have residents with cars. You'd just have visitors who could be using the tube and the public transport network to actually get in and out the area. In the current recession that we're in, I can't imagine shops wanting to move in there. I think the economic climate changed since Marks and Spencer's moved in. So I think they're having problems. They're not generating the revenue that they thought they would do when they first moved into that site. So I think at the moment, even if retail units were to be built, I'm not sure who would take them up. And it's the type of building that just wouldn't have gone up in Wimbledon or Wimbledon Village or Rain. There seems to be something about Colliers Wood where things like this can just be imposed upon us. And most of us would just rather be rid of it. I mean, I think about 80% of the people in Colliers Wood would just like it to be demolished. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen because it's worth something like £12 million. So I suppose we just have to make the best of a bad job. But the idea of building a second tower just seems to be a nonsense. If they can't actually do anything with one tower, and it seems to have been empty for about 10 years, why build a second one? And they're obviously trying to either extract as much money out of this property as they can do, or as other people have suggested, they're just using it as collateral for other business that they're doing elsewhere. And they're not particularly interested in doing anything with this at all.
and lifelong Colliers Wood resident. So have a big interest in Brandon Root Tower as a local resident myself as well. Thank you for coming this evening. We're joined by Paul McGarry and Sam Amoko Adofo from the council, both from different wings of the planning department, who are going to be saying a few things. We have Stephen Allen Bridges, who's the leader of the council, and your local councillors, Lakshmi Atawar Gamgarung and Nick Draper.
Sorry, I'm Mark, and I'm a local councillor over in Lavender Fields, which is just the other side of the Tandem Centre. Shortly after our meeting, actually Merton Council did write to the owners demanding that improvements take place. They gave 2 weeks to respond, and when no response came, the sort of like the first stage in the legal process started. And actually in April 2010, April last year, a notice was served on the owners of the building. We could see that the site wasn't being kept securely. People were breaking in, people were sleeping there. There were even stories in the papers about a pornographic film being made there. It's interesting in Colliers Wood. But there is actually a planning application on the site, which we probably hopefully know about, for it to be converted into 218 flats. And the application was submitted in November, and they threatened the council, as I understand, with judicial review, which could potentially cost the council millions of pounds if a decision like that went to judicial review. And consequently the application was made. And a consultation period began when residents were supposedly given the opportunity to have their say on that.
So on me personally, after living 9 years in this area, it's going to be a massive impact on traffic and confusion on an existing congested area. So I don't know how brilliant is the idea. I don't know how many years ago this tower was built, and how come they managed to get I guess was notified by the Evening Standard a few months ago as the ugliest building in London. I don't know how they managed to get permission, but personally I think it will ruin even more what is an existing, to be honest with you, bad situation.
The strain on social services that people get concerned about in terms of doctors' surgeries and schools and all of those infrastructure that people feel even now are under pressure. So will those things be, supported and increased to take in the fact there'll be more people?
Yeah, that's the role of the Section 106 contributions, is to provide something to the community to offset the impact of the development. So for example, there's contribution to education, because more flats would equal more kids who go to school, more usage in open space, so it's built into that.
The £100,000 goes towards highway improvements. Immediately the development begins. That, by the way, is how we know that the development hasn't begun, because they haven't paid us £100,000.
The revised planning application makes note of internal layout changes. Can you please explain what those are? Because it's already very highly dense anyway, and obviously residents don't really like that, and they certainly wouldn't want any more accommodation. So could you please flesh that out for us, please?
Yeah, the overall numbers stays the same as what the original application is 218. I think they've reconfigured the inside, because building standards have moved on a lot since 2002, when it was first drawn up, 2003. Some of the internal space standards have had to change, i.e. how big a bedroom is, how big a kitchen is. And also on the top floors they've introduced duplex apartments, so it's 2-storey flats at the top of the building.
This controversial building was built up, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 years ago before I moved in the area.
40. Not 50, because I remember it being built.
Yeah. Has anyone ever considered, of course belongs to private owner, has anyone ever considered to make an offer to the owner and just destroy the building?
You have to develop the economics. If you demolish a building, there's a cost associated to the development value of that existing building, the cost of demolition, and then the cost of putting something else in place of it. And invariably, if you look at other parts of London, especially in the city, when they take an old building down, a bigger one goes back in place of it to recoup that value.
John?
I was just curious, because you mentioned before that he has the landholder, freeholder of the old library building. Yeah, Goldthwaite.
Yeah.
He owns the tower, of doom. Yeah. I heard that he also owns or has bought the old pub opposite, the Six Bells pub. I mean, as a local entrepreneur, speculator, developer, well, what else does he own in the local area?
Well, we tried to do some research on him. He owns a huge amount of stuff in South London. He owns a lot of Brixton Town Centre. He owns a lot of the shops around Marks and Spencer's in Tooting. Not I'm saying he, I mean the company owns it. He owns the Trocadero in the chat that we were having about that today at Piccadilly Circus. He owns a St Nicholas shopping centre in Sutton. I mean, this is not any small guy with a small portfolio. This is a huge portfolio. This is a company that invests money in property and doesn't worry when it's going to get a return on it. If this guy had shareholders, they would never have left the property in the state it's in, because people would want a return on their investment. Part of the problem why we all have problems in dealing with him and dealing with a company is he can leave it. He doesn't need the money now. And that gives us a lack of leverage over him.
There's no way them can appear and be on the table one of these nights, so we can all face them and try and ask them and find out from them.
There was a bit of a history about them, that Mr. Aziz. Can I say that he gets invited to everything we do like this? At the same time we invited the council officers, we invited him, we asked him to come. We thought it would be to his advantage to come. We have a very, not the easiest of relationships with him. We rang him today, I rang his office yesterday actually, and his PA just said he's out of the country, we can't possibly spare you the time.
I have no faith in the planning office at all, because I'm not convinced, because I bet you that in a year's time we'll be discussing what we'll do about 500 units. It will not be 260, because it will just creep up. That guy seems to be able to run the show, really, because it's been there for years and nobody's done anything.